Well, thanks for joining the show, Alex. Really excited to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's a great opportunity for me.
Fantastic. Yeah, you're a really interesting kid, man. Not many kids are like you out there. You've done some really cool stuff in your short lifespans, to be honest with you. But let's take it back to the roots a little bit. I mean, when did you first get interested in sort of entrepreneurship and why did you get interested in it?
Right. Yeah. So I think it first started off back in year 7. So I've always had an interest in making money. I would always go into like vending machine changes and I would pick out any change that was left over, or like car parking machines, see if there's any change. But in year 7, I started selling sweets at school. I went to Poundland every day. I bought a bunch of sweets and I just put them in different boxes, sold the boxes for £1 each. And just like that, I was making £2-3 a day. I was super happy with myself. And then really from there, I ended up learning about online business and doing what I'm doing today. So it's just been a growth journey, really.
Wow, we actually have that in similarity. When I was a kid, I used to buy wholesale sweets, take them to school and sell them as well. Just because my parents never gave me any pocket money. So I was like, man, I got to figure it out somehow. And that was my avenue to do that. Is that kind of what made you want to do as well?
Yeah, basically, yeah. I always had something inside of me saying I want to do something big. Started with sweets and yeah.
Oh, and it's been a long journey since then, man. You've done some amazing things.
Yeah.
Prior to that, I mean, let's talk a bit about your upbringing. I mean, how did your parents sort of influence you, or did they not influence you at all in terms of helping you to go on this path that you've been on?
Yeah, so I would say for the first 10 years of my life, it's all been focused on education, getting into a good secondary school and focusing on education really. But since then, loads of stuff have changed. My parents kind of changed their philosophy, sort of, and it's been more focused on making it in business or doing something, following your purpose, finding what your purpose is and doing what you love. So I think since then, I've really been more free, because back then it used to be under loads of pressure. I wasn't actually doing, I got into a grammar school, which is considered a good school, but I didn't actually like doing that work. But ever since, they changed their philosophy, it's been more free, easygoing for me.
Interesting. What made them change their philosophy? Was it you that pushed so hard for something, or was it them that kind of just changed naturally on their own?
No, my dad was dead broke. So he had to change really. He was broke. So something had to change for us to get out of that. And we just went from there.
Yeah, man. Necessity will make you do all sorts of things, right? When you realize I got to do something different. But that's so interesting. Are your parents immigrants out of curiosity, or were they like born and raised in
no, they came from India.
Okay.
2000, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Do you think there's a difference between being a sort of immigrant or having a sort of international context when it comes to being an entrepreneur versus someone that's locally born and has gone through the sort of ranks here? Or do you think there's no difference at all?
Yeah, I think there is something like that, because people from, let's say someone from a less privileged background came here, they see so much opportunity. Like I know there's stories of people who come to the US saying US is the land of, it's a dream land, right? And then they make it really big because they find opportunities over there. It's the same, people who might have been raised here don't actually see the opportunities other people can see. So yeah, there might be an element of that involved, I would say.
Yeah, no, that's so interesting. Do you think the environment that you were in school was conducive or fostering that, make or break, let's try something new, let's do entrepreneurship and all that kind of stuff? Or was it completely restrictive in terms of all books and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I would say it's very restrictive. In school, it's just more focused on you doing loads of different things and not trying anything new, just working with everyone, doing what everyone else is doing. But something my dad told me, which he learned from someone, is if you do what everyone else does, you get what everyone else gets. And what do they have? Well, not much. So you don't want to do what everyone else does. And that's a philosophy I'm keeping.
Wow, your dad's a wise guy, huh? Gave you some nuggets of wisdom right there. So let's talk a little bit about that transition. So you're like, okay, I got to start, a business of my own or entrepreneurship. What were the first things that you started to do? How did you even get started? Where do you even go? Where do you find information? How did you even go about it?
Yeah, so like I said, I started with sweets. From there, I just came across a few videos on YouTube talking about, I searched up how to make money online. I saw loads of different stuff, like becoming a freelancer, all this kind of stuff. But the business of dropshipping came across to me as something very appealing. And a couple summers ago when Pokemon Go came out, I actually started selling Pokemon toys on Amazon. And what I was actually doing was I was finding them on eBay for a lower price and just selling them on Amazon. So I was technically doing dropshipping back then, though I didn't really realize it. And then from there, it's just been a journey forward.
Oh, fantastic. And so tutorials, YouTube, all that kind of stuff. How would you go about sourcing and knowing what the differential is between the price of something versus how much you can sell it for on Amazon? Is it literally just research? Did you have like spreadsheets of like, I'm going to do this? Like, how did you go about that?
Yeah, there's loads of work involved. You have to go through loads of training. You have to actually do it to know what's the most effective strategy or how it works. Because too often people watch something, but they don't actually try it out. So I think actually getting started, seeing what's the best way to do things, that's what will take you really.
Oh, that's so interesting. Dropshipping. I don't really know much about that. So it's a world that you keep seeing those YouTube ads and stuff like that. Oh, yeah. You can, do dropshipping, and, it almost seems sometimes a bit spammy, in that regard. What do you have to say about that? Is that how you kind of got hooked? You saw an ad and then you kind of got into the world, or?
I probably saw a bunch of ads that they just, because they kept on coming across to me, it got started. But yeah, it might look like that, but it's definitely a huge business model. And loads of people are taking advantage of it. So yeah.
Alex, let's go into the details of dropshipping. So what is it that you actually do within that process, and what is dropshipping?
Right. So dropshipping is essentially the process of you selling a product that you never actually touch. And essentially you build a website where you list this product, you mark it up at a higher price. And essentially when someone comes to your website and places an order for the product, you ship it directly from your supplier, who might be from China or the US, directly to the customer. So you're kind of like a middleman. You're taking the profit between whatever the price they're paying and the price you pay. And it's a very simple business model that doesn't require much upfront capital because you don't pay for products until someone orders them. So it's a big difference to normal businesses where you have to buy loads of stock upfront and you have to sell what you have available. Whereas with dropshipping, you can just find any supplier that cheaper products and you can mark that up and sell it on your website.
So you never actually get involved with the product per se. You're kind of a little bit hands off. You just operate the process between the two sides, the supply and demand. Is that correct?
Exactly. That's right. And the main thing with dropshipping is actually the marketing. So how do you get the customer to go to your website and buy something? So if you're a good marketer, then this business model is super easy for you. All you need to do is drive the traffic, get the sales, and really it's just work between your supplier and customer from there.
What is the best product that you've sold so far? Best in terms of margins and things like that, and what's the worst?
So beauty products are really evergreen, especially if you find something that the vast majority of people like. So teeth whitening is super big. There are many $100 million brands being built in teeth whitening today. So that's a super huge space. Facial care is another big one. Those are some of the products I've also sold really well for me.
And what's done really badly for you?
Well, there's loads of products that do really badly. You can pretty much tell on the first day if they're not generating you sales after you set up a campaign that, maybe this doesn't have potential. I think every product does have potential. You just need to know how to market it properly. So I guess I can't really say something doesn't work, but there are definitely some favorites. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. And how would you get people to come to your particular site as opposed to Amazon or the common places I can find something?
Right. So there's loads of different ways of marketing products. Some people use Google, Facebook, Instagram. I personally use Instagram quite a lot because it's fairly effective. And essentially why people go for you over Amazon is because they buy based off impulse or emotion. So you can catch someone in a moment and tell them why your website is the best place to buy from, then they won't think about going to Amazon. They will just buy directly from your site. So that's a great thing about the business as well.
I see. And in terms of the quality control, because if you're sourcing things at the cheapest price you can find them, and then you send them to a customer and they don't really like the product or the quality isn't good, at the end of the day, that's a bit of a stain, or should I say, on you. And you also might suffer in terms of returns and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Do you have to manage out that quality versus, supply organization or discussion?
Yeah. So when you're starting out, you would just obviously pick the best suppliers. As you start getting bigger, best suppliers as in the people with the best ratings and reviews. As you start getting a bit bigger, you can hire an agent who actually manages all this for you, and they only source from the highest quality people. which is what I'm doing at the moment. So having a system in place for getting the best products at the lowest prices is definitely very valuable.
Were there any tools that you used along the way? What's some of the infrastructure you needed to get started in this?
Right. So essentially what you need to do first is build a website. You can use a platform called Shopify.com, which is what most people use. And it's very user-friendly. It's just drag and drop website editing. So you can quickly build a website. It might take an hour or two if you were really fast at it. And within the first day, really, you can start getting sales. All you need to do is get an app. There's a few out there. One's called Oberlo and helps you identify winning products. So products that are really hot at the moment. You can simply just import them into your store. With a few clicks, you can get the site live. And then you just start running marketing campaigns. And just like that, you can start making some money with it.
Fantastic. And in terms of the reviews and things like that, what else is involved apart from the actual mechanics of supply and demand? Is there the creative design of your brand or your site, or even taking product photos because you want a similar look and feel along the way? All those types of things. Is that involved as well?
So I would say the really basic beginners don't have to do any of that. I never personally did any of that to start getting results. But the bigger you grow, that is something you want to consider doing so you can differentiate, make your brand more unique. So that is definitely a part of it as well. But it's fairly easy to start up. You don't need to worry about doing anything else other than building a site and running ads.
You know, a big part of actually finding things online is the algorithm by which things show up in the results, right? So on Google, there's something that determines what should show up first versus second, on Amazon and all those types of things. How do you ensure that what you're trying to surface shows up higher than other things or other businesses that are competing with the same product?
Right. So, I mean, Google is just one method of advertising. People who do specialize in Google, they will do different techniques and strategies to get right up there on the front page. Most people do use Facebook and Instagram. So that's when you actually show the product to someone on their feed and hook their attention immediately. So that's probably a better way to do it, actually, if you're just starting out.
Man, grabbing attention is not easy. It's easier said than done. How do you grab people's attention? Do you have to do some crazy, wild marketing campaign or do something crazy? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, it is definitely a learning curve, learning how to catch people's attention, run effective campaigns. But essentially, if you have a very good video ad, which you can get from one of these websites, someone can do it for you, like Fiverr.com. Have a good video ad that hooks people in, then you can start driving some conversions fairly fast.
Yeah, it's really important. In fact, in my current role, I understand that, people need to be hooked within the first 3 seconds. Without that, then they start to, drop off and it's not really interesting for them. So you got to really have some crazy type of hook.
Exactly.
How did you learn that? Or what kind of hooks do you use to get people's attention?
Yeah, so initially when I was marketing, I used really crazy thumbnails.
Okay, like what?
Just really random pictures. So if, one of my first winning products was teeth whitening. I would just have a random person, someone's teeth up close. And it looked kind of weird, but people would click on it because it just caught their attention. So anything that catches attention and makes people hooked in, then that's what works.
Fantastic. And then you just kept iterating from that point on?
Yeah, there is obviously as time goes by, you have to slightly adapt and change. But if you were just starting out, you just need to play with a few things, see what works best, and just go really hard on it.
Fantastic. That sounds great. Yeah, no, that's interesting. And then along this way, so let's say, all right, I find this product here. I want to sell it on Amazon. You start to figure out the logistics and setting up your website and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. What did you fail at initially or earlier on in your career in starting off this venture? What were some of the things that you failed at?
Right. So actually, before dropshipping, I had my own website where I was selling books. So John Maxwell, leadership-related books, all that kind of stuff. And I did it with pure HTML, like I learned all the coding and stuff. I did it for about 2 years, but the only issue was I didn't get any sales whatsoever. Okay. And that's because I had no idea how to market my products or market my ideas. So really, marketing was a huge thing. It's still a huge thing for loads of people who just start out. They don't know how to actually get those sales because all the technical stuff is fairly easy to do, but marketing is the main thing, I would say. So, but once you learn that, then it's uphill from there, really.
Okay. Now that sounds interesting. Marketing, it is. there's no point in building a great foundation of something if you can't tell people about your story.
Exactly.
So how did you go about telling your story? How did you go about letting people know that you are available to do these certain things? I mean, well, how did you go about that?
Right. So, I mean, it was a lot of trial and error at the beginning. I remember one of the first things I did was I went to Fiverr.com and I searched up traffic to my website. And I bought 50,000 visitors from some bot
You
channels.
bought visitors? What does that mean?
Well, I thought I was going to get sales, 50,000 visitors sounded good, but it was just a bunch of bots coming to my site. Didn't do much. So really it's just a lot of trial and error, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work. Eventually learning how to run Instagram ads, influencers, all that type of stuff. But yeah, it was a lot of learning, I would say.
Did you have a lot of support, like with your mates? I mean, you're relatively young at this time. I don't know, how old were you when you started this?
I was 13.
13. Were all of your friends in the same kind of vibe as you, or were you the only one that was doing this and no one else was like, everyone was like, hey, that guy's doing some weird dropshipping thing. You know what I mean? How was it?
Yeah, I was, I didn't speak about it much to my friends, but whenever I did mention it, they thought I was weird.
Yeah?
Just all sorts of stuff.
Is that why you didn't speak about it with them much? Because you get like some sort of chastisement or like, I don't know, bullied or anything like that?
Oh, no, it was nothing like that. I didn't mind mentioning it, but I didn't like force it onto anyone. But if they ask, here's what I'm doing. So.
Oh man, that's interesting. So, all right. So you try to figure out how you're going to market this. When did you actually start to see a bit of sort of traction? Like as you were going on this journey, was it like, oh man, I got these 50,000 visitors. That's just vanity, a vanity metric. It's not really traction showing that you have a business.
Yeah.
How did you actually go about building that traction and going from sort of that vanity 50,000 visitors to actually a business where, you're making profit and all that kind of stuff?
So I remember seeing a video in 2017, November time, and there was this guy who said, within the first 3 months of dropshipping, I made X amount of money. And I was like, if he did it in 3 months, I can do it in 3 months. And so I convinced myself that, hey, in the next 3 months, if he can do it, then I can do it as well. And then I think it's something to do with my mind. At that point, I was set on like, I'm going to make this work. And before then, I used a platform called Shopify to build my websites. And what I would do is, because they have a 14-day free trial, as soon as the trial finishes, I close my store because I don't want to pay, of course. But what I did for the first time after I watched that video was actually pay for my store. Like I went past the 14 days and then I was like, I'm in it. Like I'm going to make this work. And then from there, I just tried playing with some Instagram influencers and that really started taking off. And I just scaled, kept on going from there, really.
Yeah, social media has been a great tool. I mean, to get your message out there and actually to get people in towards your business.
Yeah, definitely.
Would you consider yourself like an influencer? Did you grow a large audience and that kind of helped you, or not really?
Personally, I don't have a very large audience, maybe 2,000 subscribers. But utilizing other people's audiences has been very good, especially because loads of people don't know how much their audience is worth. So if you can get a good deal from these influencers, then you can definitely see huge spikes in sales.
Interesting. How much your audience is worth. I've never really thought about it like that.
Yeah.
That kind of reminds me of the sort of eyeballs or vanity metrics, 50,000 people just looking at what I'm doing versus actual paying customers.
Exactly.
How did you figure out what someone's audience is worth, and how do you quantify the value of your potential lifetime value of an audience or the people that come to your website and all that kind of stuff? Do you actually calculate that, or do you just estimate it?
Yep, sort of. So this is still something I'm still learning at the moment. But really, there's loads of factors that come into place. So you have to think about what's the audience's age, what's their gender, what their potential interests, and is the product aligned with their interest. So there's loads of factors that come in play. But once you understand how much your audience is worth, based on some numbers that you gather, then you can really go crazy with it. You can scale really big.
And how did you determine where to spend your money and what not to spend your money on? Because I personally have spent money on things that didn't work out, and then other things I'm like, okay, this might be a long-term thing versus a short-term thing. There's sort of that, you got to try and fail at some things, right? I'm going to hire this famous influencer to market this campaign, and then you figure out, man, this is just a waste of time, right?
Yeah.
How did you figure out where to sort of invest your money? And even secondarily to that, where did you get the capital to even get started? I mean, you're a kid when you started this off. Where did you, get the scraps from, I don't know, selling sweets or whatever it is?
Yeah. So first of all, this is something that still happens to me. So I lose a lot of money, but I also make a lot of money. So it's a continuous learning process. Sometimes I've paid influencers tens of thousands and to see no return whatsoever. So it's just a matter of keep on doing new things, experimenting new things. And once you find something that works, you go really hard on it. So it's a continuous learning process, but it's worth it.
Nice. And then where did you actually get the capital to get started?
Yeah. So actually, where it first started was I found a £1 coin in a car parking machine. And the next day I went to school and I bought a pack of Chewits. It was 7 packs and I sold them for 30p. So the next day I had £2. I did this for a couple of days. Then, like I said, I went to Poundland every day, started buying sweets, selling those. And over the course of about 2 years, to the end of year 8, I had about £200 saved up. And I was also making a little bit of money from YouTube as well. I had my own channel and I had AdSense going on. So I just used that to get into dropshipping and I just grew it from there, really.
Okay. And did you have to leave school completely to do this, or did you balance the two out? How did you kind of, meander that?
Yeah, so now I've left school, which is great for me. I'm actually getting an apprenticeship at a marketing agency nearby. So that's going to be a good opportunity for me. But when I was at school, I would say it was a challenge because, every day you're being taught stuff that doesn't really apply to me or doesn't apply in general. You can't apply it in general. And I'm always thinking about my businesses, about my ads. How can I do this better? How can I work on this? So it was a challenge, but it's something that I think we need to change because, more people like me, for more people like me to come up, then we need to do something different with the education system and the way people are taught and what they're taught. So I think, it's a big area that needs change.
Yeah. Well, you didn't find Pythagoras' theorem useful in what you were doing then?
No.
What was the most useful thing you think you learned from school?
It's a good question, actually. I never really think about that. I never asked myself that question.
Wow, it was that bad, huh? I didn't learn anything from school,
huh? I mean, if you ask me what I learned over the past couple of years in any subject, I can't tell you much because my mind is constantly thinking about business. How can I grow this brand? How can I scale my stores? So, I can't tell you much.
Yeah. So walk me through that experience you had with Forbes, right? So they spotlighted you in some capacity, and I mean, how did that process go? How did you actually start to engage with the press and get your message out there? And what did that do for your, I don't want to say brand per se, but for you overall as a young entrepreneur coming up and actually getting that opportunity?
Right. So this was actually thanks to Julian, who you had on the podcast last week. So he had a good few connections that got me onto Forbes. So shout out to him, I guess. But really, it helped put some confidence behind my back. Like every time I feel a bit down, I can go hey, Forbes was backing me up last year. I can do this. So I think it was good for my confidence. It put a bit of pressure on me as well. I'm expected to perform, that people know about me. But the good type of pressure, a healthy pressure. So it was beneficial for me, I would say.
Yeah, man, that pressure to deal with as a young kid, it can be a lot,
Yeah.
That can, I don't say mental health or, all those types of things, but there's pressure to perform either academically or, I don't know, some kids have to become the man of the house at a young age and all those types of things. How did you sort of deal with pressure, whether it was the media, whether it was at home and all those types of things? Were you always naturally good under pressure, or how would you advise others to be able to handle pressure as well?
Yeah, I would say I was naturally good under pressure. It wasn't anything I specifically did. I always keep cool. I think things through. How can I work on this, or how can I get better? So it's a constant, when you're constantly doing something, you're working on something, you just figure things out, how you can go to the next level. So that's what I do.
So speaking about the next level, actually, what are those next levels for you? What does a mission statement for you look like? In other words, when you're 30, 40, whatever age it is, where do you hope to be? And how do you continue to guide yourself along that mission to stay true to that? Or does it change? Right.
So my overall goals, my main passion is really revolutionizing the education system. That's something that's really, really strikes me because there's loads of people who are being told to not do what they love and just pick the best paying job, really. And that's driving them into a really bad path down in life, but they don't see it. So reaching people at a younger age, teaching them different, especially in schools, because they have the biggest influence over young people. That's something that's on my heart. But I want to build billion-dollar brands. Why not? I have big goals ahead. So, I want to buy Chelsea Football Club.
There we go, man. I think you should buy a better football club.
But yeah, loads of big goals like that.
Nice. And, you got to have a lot of confidence in order to even have goals like that, right? You want to make people uncomfortable with the goals that you have. When it comes to that confidence, where did you get that from? Was it your family? Was it something that happened? I mean, you mentioned Forbes and all those types of things, but getting that confidence to even try new things, to put yourself out there, to have audacious goals, where did that come from per se? And how do you get other people, your age bracket, to have that much confidence to try and do this?
Right. I would say loads of factors came in play. My dad being a big one. So he always tells me, just do the opposite of what I did and you'll make it. So he always encouraged me to try new things and doing loads of new things, experimenting, and just become confident. I feel okay getting uncomfortable, I would say. So that's a big thing.
Yeah. Now, when I think about my personal story, I'd say my confidence came from my parents a lot as well. Telling you can do things. It's not out of your reach. And also, I think being honest at certain points in time. When saying, what, this is not your strength or your skill set, and this is what you are actually good at, and helping to analyze what you're good at, what you're not good at, so that you can focus on your strengths and if you need to improve some of your weaknesses. Did you ever do that sort of exercise to figure out what you're good at, what you're not good at, and how did you go about that process?
Yeah, I did do a few personality tests like that. I kind of already understood myself and how I work, what I'd like to do really. So didn't add too much value to me. But I think for loads of people, they'll find that very valuable because they can really see what they'd like to do, what kind of person they are, and then base what they want to do in the future off of that. So that's a very impactful thing, I would say. Yeah.
And a lot of people in your age bracket, they're still trying to figure themselves out, right? That's a big part of it. In fact, I don't think you really ever figure yourself out completely, but it's a journey or path that you have to go on. And some people figure it out earlier. Some people don't find value in these sort of personality tests and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But would you say people in your age bracket or your time of life, is that something they're struggling with, figuring out who they are, what they're good at and what they aren't? Or would you say for the most part, it's relatively easy?
I would say the only reason that people don't know what they like to do or what their purpose is because they're not told to find out what it is. See, in school, we're told to work on loads of different things, different subjects. And even when it comes to GCSEs, for example, they tell us to pick a few things, but we have to pick 10 different things. So it's not really narrowing much down.
Yeah.
We should be told at a younger age to find out what we love to do and just focus on developing skills in those areas. And I think that's the reason why people think they don't know what they like to do. It's because they kind of hold their hands over their eyes and saying it's dark when, you have to move your hands and you can actually see what you like to do. So yeah, it is a big thing, but I think that can be easily fixed if we're told to find out what we love to do. Yeah,
it's important to do what you love to do, man, because life's too short. You actually have to invest the time in things that you want to, because at the end of the day, I think you can have a lot of satisfaction in what you've done because you've done things that you think are worthwhile.
Yeah.
And also, it's a good way to spend your life as opposed to, getting older and having regret and all those types of things. You're still relatively young, so you might not have that many regrets. Or do you actually? Is there anything that you regret doing so far?
Nothing that I regret. Maybe that I started younger, if I found out younger. But no, everything I've done so far has led me to where I am today, and I'm fairly happy with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously, there are a few things. But yeah.
I'm a bit curious as to why you think you should go into a marketing agency at this point in time, as opposed to continuing on this path that you're on. Because, a marketing agency is, I don't say a regular 9-to-5 job, but at the same time, you also could learn from these people, which you could apply in your own job. Is that the whole goal? Yeah,
that's my goal. Developing my skills. I want to be the best marketer in the world, so I have to develop those skills. So the agency was a good way for me to do that, I would say.
I see. And how did you go about selecting where you'd want to, work and where you'd like to spend your time and who you'd like to learn from? Because a big part of being an entrepreneur, being successful, is working with some of the best people so you can learn from them, right? As much as you can. Was that a difficult process to go through or not really?
Yeah, it took a while, but I just cold emailed tens of dozens of companies, the best ones over here. And I picked the one I felt like I could grow the most under.
Yeah, cold calling, sending emails, all that kind of stuff. It's not easy, man. You got to burn the midnight oil. It's really intense.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Well, thanks for joining on the show. If people want to find out more about you, where can they go to hear more about Alex and what you're working on over the next couple of months?
Yep. So I actually have a YouTube channel called Alex Phillip, just my name. And I post dropshipping related content, business, the stuff I do. So that's a great place to find me. And I provide loads of value to my audience. I'm sure if you guys are interested in entrepreneurship, then you can find something out there.
Fantastic. Thanks for your time, Alex.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Saka.